Welcome to the Homeschool Show from North Carolinians for Home Education. Our goal is to help you homeschool with confidence and joy. I'm your host, Matthew McDill, and our co-host today is T.S. and Smack. Welcome back to the studio.
Hello, glad to be here.
Glad you could be here again.
Yes. So today we have another great show for you all. We have our homeschool news segment where we're going to give you some information on Thrive, and that is the NCHE Homeschool Conference. You might as well say the homeschool conference of the year. We have homeschool conversations, and we will listen to part of a conversation that Matthew had with Dr. Kathy Koch on her book, 8 Great Smarts. And we will also have a homeschool tip of the week where we will help you discover the unique interests, passions, and talents of your kids.
That's right. That'll be great.
Yes.
All right, so let's start off with homeschool news. And it's really not big news that the conference is coming because we've already told you that. And that's coming May 26th through 28th. The big news is this week, early bird registration ends. That's the big news, this Thursday.
Okay.
So what's got to happen is you need to go register before Thursday if you want to get the discount. If you register for early bird, you'll get $15 off the pre-registration price.
Wow.
And $35 off the on-site price. So if you've already decided to go, or if you're right on the edge and you think you probably are, you might as well register now and get the discount.
Absolutely.
So that's the news. Again, it's May 26th through 28th at the Benton Convention Center in Winston-Salem. And just to remind you, it is probably my favorite event of the year and the best conference in North Carolina for sure.
Absolutely.
So you want to check it out at nche.com/thrive. That's where you can find out all about it. You can find out all of our speakers. Our featured speakers this year are Rachel Carmen, Derek and Cheryl Carter, Mike Donnelly, Dr. Kathy Koch, who we'll be talking to in just a minute, Dr. Jeff Myers, and Rebecca Spooner, who we had on the program just a couple of weeks ago. And besides these featured speakers, we have 87 workshops to choose from. So pretty much, I think anything you can think of as far as your questions about homeschool, we have a workshop for that.
Yeah.
So you want to, you can see what all those workshops are also at nche.com/thrive. Are you going to be doing a workshop?
Yes, I am actually.
I thought you were.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about it?
So we're going to be doing a workshop this year that I'm super excited about, and it's called the Multicultural Connections. And this will be an opportunity for us to get multicultural families together to equip them with the resources to navigate the homeschool world and to also talk about the beauty of diversity within the homeschool world. And then again, it will be a great opportunity for connection. So we're going to have a chance to talk with one another, to mingle, for other families to connect with other families, so that when you leave the conference, not only will you leave with information, but you will leave with connections that will continue to enrich your homeschool experience. So we are super excited about that. We're going to have Spanish speakers there. So those who want to come and talk in their own language, you can. And yeah, it's going to be great. And we're also going to have the multicultural gathering as well.
So the gathering is a separate event, right?
Yes, that is separate. So we'll have the workshop, and then we'll have the gatherings. And there'll be opportunity to just get together very informally and just talk, to connect, and further build more relationships and more connections.
So there are other gatherings as well. Looking at this: military, special needs, single parents, new homeschoolers, parents of preschoolers, parents of gifted children, homeschool with chronic illness. And so there may be a group of people that you identify with and that you want to walk the journey with. And multicultural is one of those too.
Yes.
So that's another reason to come to the conference. Once again, nche.com/thrive, and you can find out how to register right there.
Yes, and you want to do this. You need to do this, so make sure you do
That's
it.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's go into our homeschool conversations. And as you said, I had a great talk with Dr. Kathy Koch. And this particular segment of our conversation is about her book, 8 Great Smarts. I love this book, and Dr. Koch is going to be at our conference, and she's one of my favorite speakers. Yeah. Have you ever heard her live?
I have not, no.
Oh, you should go check out one of the workshops.
Okay.
It's and so we're going to find out about 8 Great Smarts, and it really goes into this idea of understanding how our children are different and identifying the ways that they're smart. So let's listen and see what Dr. Kathy Koch has to say about that. But on the 8 smarts, that really was insightful to me, especially for one of my children who definitely wasn't academic smart. And I had to understand that and help him understand that. It was so helpful. So talk about that book a little bit and what the main ideas are.
Yeah, I'd love to. So we have 8 smarts, all of us created with the capacity to develop all 8. God is generous. Researched by Howard Gardner at Harvard University, and I took his work and kind of added the Christian piece to it, if you will, and made it accessible to parents. And there's 8 smarts, we all have them, and word and logic are what I call the school smarts. So children who have a lot of ability for speaking, reading, writing, and listening, asking and answering questions, math and science, tend to be what we call the word and logic smart kids, and they gravitate towards school. We were the nerds, we didn't mind school, we found school to be an easy place. But how many of us know people where school was hard, but life has been easy? And that means that the other 6 really matter, and they even matter in school. Picture smart kids, picture, music, body, nature, people, and self. Really important. Picture smart kids think with their eyes and pictures, music smart with rhythms and melodies, body smart through movement and touch, nature smart with patterns, so that's how they know it's a bluebird, not a blue jay. And then people, we think with people, like what you and I are doing right here, bouncing ideas back and forth, asking and answering questions, reading body language so that we can discern whether we should move on or keep talking. And then self-smart, thinking deeply inside of ourselves and being comfortable with our own ideas. And I think, Matthew, that those last 2 matter greatly. I think people smart, people and self.
People and self.
Yeah, you know, the world would say word and logic matter the most because earning an A matters the most. Well, actually, children with high character and people skills will be the ones that make it in a very chaotic culture with messy people. If you want your kids to be ready to be promoted, if you will, to have healthy marriages and be good parents and to be able to contribute to the culture, they need to be people smart, where they can read body language, respond appropriately, discuss ideas, learn to debate without arguing, learn to compromise when it's appropriate, knowing who's for them and who's against them. I've actually gone on record to say that it's the most important intelligence, partly because it's been awakened later because of technology. Because we're allowing our kids to have their eyes down on their devices. We don't even make them look up and say hello. And so they're losing the ability, some of them, to read body language, which is extremely important. It's how we know, walking into a room, where to sit. It's how we can figure out who's for them and who's against them. And then it's also the ability for groupthink, where we can agree to disagree, compromise, gain ground with, hey, you think this, I think this. What do you think? Well, then collectively, what do we think? Such an important skill. And then the self-smart people, self-smart people think deeply. So the self-smart part of your brain, man, you know what you know, because you've pondered it and thought it and prayed it and journaled it and just walked and wondered about it, and you draw conclusions. Some self-smart people never share them because their joy is knowing what they know. But we need to share what we know because that's the way that we change the world and leave it a better place. So those 2, now that combination internally is really confusing. I want to be alone, I want to be with people. I want to be alone, I want to be with people. But having both really matters greatly.
Now you had this part as a part of the larger discussion of identity.
Yes.
And how this is important for people to understand how God made them and receive that.
Yeah, you remember well. Yeah, identity is who am I? The big identity question, who am I? And identity controls behavior. Who we think we are shows up. So if I think I'm stupid, I don't study. People think, well, if you're stupid, study more. No, if a kid or a teen or a young adult thinks, man, I don't have a brain, then why would I study? It won't help. It's very, very critical. Identity controls behavior. So if I find out that I'm picture smart and music smart, I'm not just creative and artistic and talented and gifted, I'm smart. Now don't worry about I'm not the smart one, because a lot of these kids think, well, my brother's the smart one. I'm going to let him shine. I'll let him go to college. I'll let him, earn the A's, if you will, and I'm going to be in the back seat. No, you don't want any kid in the back seat. You want everyone to understand that God did a good thing. I know somebody who, for 32 years, was mad at God. Because now this kid, I read about this in my book, she was a magna cum laude graduate. She choreographed in New York City and Nashville and did dance and set design and different things at Walt Disney World, and yet never knew she was smart. And she ends she wrote me an 8-page handwritten letter to me after she heard me speak. And she ended the letter with, for 32 years I've been mad at God because I didn't think he made me smart. And now I know he did. And thank you for reorienting my relationship with God. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's not just about earning A's and studying. It's about a perspective that, we were God did a good thing when he made us. And so identity influences belonging. If I think I'm stupid, who do I look to hang out with, right? And identity influences purpose. Why am I alive? If I think, well, I'm stupid, I'm slow, and ideas are really hard, and again, there's a hierarchy of giftedness. Not everybody was created by God to be smart in all 8 ways with an A+ average, if you will. But how do we rhythm that? How do we believe that? How do we perceive that our future in light of that? I was a chatty Cathy. Now people pay me to talk. It's like a beautiful thing, I read more books in the library reading program in the summer, and now I'm an author of 6. Childhood matters. Childhood shows up. Who we think we are is who we will become. And so what do you believe about your kids? And, do you understand that they're capable of more than you probably thought they were? And they work in combination. It is a great talk for homeschool parents because we are responsible for educating these kids according to God's design. Not parenting who you wish you had, but parenting who you actually have.
Yeah, and this idea, this talk really gave me in the book, because I've had my kids do the quiz. And,
Good.
But I have a high school daughter who says she's not smart.
Oh.
It was like she just walked into the this guy, I'm not smart. I said, yeah.
Let's talk.
I know about this. Yeah.
I love it.
So I said, well, what you're saying is you have a difficult time with these kinds of subjects, right?
Oh, good comeback.
And she said, well, that's one way of being smart. We just talked about it.
Oh, cool.
But she's a people magnet. Like,
okay.
She is the best friend of 100 people.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? She just And I said, that's amazing. Let's talk about your ability to make friends and connect with people, and you understand them, and she's just.
And what that means for her future.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I love that, because what I love to say to kids is, no, you're not stupid because you made 4 mistakes. You're not as smart in that area. Maybe that's okay. Yeah. Or maybe you were careless, or maybe it was new and challenging. Or maybe it was tricky. But don't say that you're stupid because you struggled with it. Right. No, you're smart differently. Oh, yeah, we could talk all night.
All right. I really loved talking to Kathy, Dr. Kathy, as we call her. Yeah. So did anything stick out to you in particular from that conversation?
Yeah, first of all, that was just incredible. I feel like you listen to her talk and you feel like your world is just open, like, wow, things I didn't even know about before. I loved when she said a lot of things, but when she said, you don't parent who you wish you had, but you parent who you actually have. And I feel like that was a lesson I learned right on, because my daughter and I are very opposite. And so I was trying to parent her like me, and I had to realize, like, she's not me at all.
That may not work.
That may not work, exactly. And so I'm glad I got exposed to this through this interview and learned about all these different smarts. Another big thing that really stuck out to me was when she talked about the 30-year-old who had finally realized that she was smart. And I think this is so important for us as homeschool parents, because not only do we need to share this information with our kids, but there are a lot of us who are adults who are trying to
still
parent.
Figuring it out.
Still figuring it out and have never heard that we are smart and are, self-conscious about homeschooling and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think it's important for us as parents, as adults, to do it ourselves, to discover our smarts and then share it. So about you, do you know what your smarts are?
Yes, I was going to joke. I still didn't know who I was. But,
Okay.
I think my number one would have to be people.
Okay.
I love being with people. And I do have, I feel like I begin to get a sense of what's going on. I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
It's like this built-in spidey sense of whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is working or this is not working.
Yeah.
What about you?
I would have to say people as well. People
yeah?
and words are probably my top two.
Me too.
Yeah, people and words.
That's why we like to talk.
I know, we do.
We're like, we can talk.
Yeah. Super easy. Those
right.
would be my number one. And probably right after that would be logic. So I always did really good in school. Again, because I could not only do the work, but I could sense my teachers. And so
I thought you could be a nerd.
yeah, I was a
Were
nerd.
you a little bit of a nerd?
100%. Yeah, I was, straight A's, whatever. But I was people, so I was a chatty Kathy. But I was also people,
Getting
so I
A's
could,
too.
I knew how to butter up my
Yeah,
teachers.
yeah,
So
yeah.
school was easy breezy for me.
Well, and I think the real important thing here that was just the game changer
Yeah.
is to realize how many smarts there are
Yeah.
besides logic, academic smarts.
Absolutely.
And really to realize that's how we think.
Yeah.
And to not be able to have categories to say there's so many different kinds of smart and we can help our kids find them. And that is empowering to them.
Absolutely.
And they would feel dumb. My kids were like that. And I'll share some stories, but
Yeah.
they really felt like I am a dumb person.
Yeah.
And then we look at a different area of life and go, but you're not over here.
Yeah. And this discussion is so great. And before we even discuss our tip of the week
Yeah.
and talk a little bit more about this, we want to tell you how to get the online course 8 Great Smarts for Your Kids by Dr. Kathy Koch for free. And you can get it by joining NCHE. So you want to tell them a little bit more about that?
If you go to nche.com/join, you can become a member and you will get immediate access to a 9-part series of 8 Great Smarts for your kids. It's $49 normally, but you're going to get it for free by joining. It has a discussion starter for parents. It has a bonus video for mom and dad to learn about the function of faith and smarts. And so if you'd like to check that out, then go and join today, and you will have access and get the instructions to know how to do that.
Absolutely. And that ties right into our tip of the week.
Mm-hmm.
We want to help your children discover and pursue their gifts, their talents, and their interests. And like you said, to let them know, hey, you're all smart. We're all smart. Let's just figure out how.
That's right. And there are a lot of ways, even besides smarts,
Yeah.
right, that our kids are different.
Absolutely.
So I think of personalities.
Yes.
I think of talents, like natural talents, which kind of fits into body smart possibly.
Yeah.
And the smarts fit into talents, but they're a wide range of talents. Spiritual gifts, as your children come to know the Lord and they are given a spiritual gift, that's another layer of learning who they are. And any other kind of passions and interests. They just might be interested in certain kinds of topics, And so I think, for example, of my 2 oldest boys who are now in college, but when they were in high school, they were both in a speech club and they both did parkour. You were familiar with parkour?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So we usually have to explain it, right? So parkour is sometimes dangerous. It's a lot of running and climbing and vaulting and jumping off of things. And so one of them was really good at parkour, and the
Okay.
other one kind of followed along.
Okay.
The other one was really good at speech, and the other one kind of followed along. And so immediately you began to go, you both have to do both.
Yeah.
But now we see where you're excelling, and we
Body
want to
smart
empower
here
you. Yeah.
and word smart there.
And
Yeah.
it's really neat to be able to affirm that in
Yeah.
them, So we want to give you a few tips on how to help your children discover those unique abilities, right? So here's the first one. Respect and develop relationships with your kids. If you don't know your kids, you're not going to be able to help identify those very well.
Yeah.
You have to have those conversations and to know their heart, to know what they think, to know what they are concerned about.
Yeah.
And so I heard it was actually one of the workshops that Dr. Kathy was at a few years ago at Thrive. And she shared 4 questions that she loves to ask kids to find out what they're passionate about.
Okay.
And here are the 4 questions. First, what problems do you want to solve? 2, what people groups would you like to serve? 3, what breaks your heart? And 4, what brings you joy? Those are hard questions.
Yeah,
I mean, those are deep questions.
they are.
And I think some kids would be like, I don't know,
I know.
what you're talking about. I think I'm older children, as
Absolutely.
they begin to become more aware of things and of themselves, will be able to answer these kinds of questions. But even asking them to kids who can't answer them gives them a category for thinking about it.
And this is one of the benefits of homeschooling, right? Is that we get all this time with our
Yeah.
kids. So one thing we can do is just observe them. You know, you can have a
Right.
kid who, when you take them to the zoo, they're in tears because they want, you know, the animals to roam free. And you're like, no, you know, and you get to understand like, maybe that's a sign of nature smart. And the
Another
same
one
thing.
wants to dissect them.
Exactly. You know? And you might have another kid who's there like, I have no interest
This
in
is so
this.
boring.
Like, please get me out of here.
Yeah.
And so you can even start to kind of develop this. I know there's a woman, her name is Priscilla Shire, and she said when all of her kids, well, her oldest son was about 5 years old, she bought a notebook. And she just kind of jots things throughout their lives to just kind of write down. And so that's something we could do when they're young. Just kind of like, I've just observed this about my
Yeah.
kid, or I noticed this. So maybe even when they are older, you can come and bring that to them and say, hey, you know, these are some things that I know about you, but how do you feel about you now? And just begin to let them know, again, they do have an identity. You
Right.
do see them. You recognize them. Like, yes, sweetie, you're very kind.
right.
You're very empathetic, or, you know, you're very artistic. And my
Right.
daughter's 13, and she loves when I talk about the things I've seen in her all along.
Sure.
Because word and logic and people aren't her thing. Those aren't her.
Okay.
Those are my things, right? Not hers. But she's very picture smart and
Okay.
very music smart.
Nice.
I can say, hey, go make something. And
She
she'll
makes
come
it.
back making, you know, these crazy things or these wonderful ideas I would have never.
Yeah.
And so I just love to, you know, keep all of those things so I can just continue to encourage her now that she's about to be a teenager. She'll be 13 next week. Hey, baby, you are smart. You're
Yeah.
wonderful. You're great. So
I love
yeah.
that idea of the notebook because it gives the idea that we're students
Yeah.
of our kids
Yeah.
and that we're not just guiding them along, but we have to discover who they are
Yeah.
and care about them. And like you said, realize they're not like me.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah.
And this goes back to what Dr. Kathy said about identity. And we want them to feel secure
Yeah.
and feel like they know who they are
Yeah.
and that they matter, and not feel like, well, I'm just not good enough for this or that.
Absolutely.
And this is what's beautiful about helping them find whatever it is that they love the way that God made them.
Yeah.
Just one last thought here is we want to give our kids the freedom and opportunity to pursue whatever it is their interests are, whatever they're good at. And so that might take time. That may cost money.
Yeah.
It might require joining this or that to help them have that opportunity. It just reminds me of my senior year of those same 2 boys, their senior year. One of them did a lot of research on theology and Bible teaching and all this, and he's headed towards seminary now.
Okay.
And the other one, who is the parkour guy, is really interested in law enforcement.
Oh, okay.
And so we just let him, I said, just study it, research it, find out everything you can and pray. And is that something God wants you to do? You know, and now he's pursuing that as well.
Yeah.
And so you give them the opportunity and space to do that.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's our job.
Yeah.
And if we don't give them that, and that's the other advantage of homeschooling.
Yes, it is.
Because if you don't have the flexibility to open it up and say, you pursue what you want,
Yeah.
you have to do these things, then they don't have the opportunity
And
to
I
do
will
that.
say, if people think, well, I don't really have the money, you know, maybe I got 6 kids or however many kids, we're on one income. I don't have the money to put my kid in a lot of different things. It doesn't even really take money.
Yeah.
Just like you said, time and opportunity, where every moment of their day isn't filled up with curriculum. And you say, hey, you got 2 hours. Go
Yep.
do something and
Yep.
see what they do. So normally at this time, we would be having our homeschool reality moment segment. And this is when we look into
We don't.
homeschool videos, but we don't have any. So please send some in. So tell them what they could send in and what we're looking for.
Yeah. Send in a 1 to 2 minute video record it horizontally, and this should be anything that inspires you, like homeschool hacks, family hacks, stories, things that you're experiencing. Just remember that this is also on podcast and radio, so you don't want to just show us pictures. You want to tell us what's happening so that we can show that, and the radio audience can enjoy that as well. You can send your videos to the homeschool show at nche.com, and we'll be able to include them on the show. We would love to see what you're doing, your ideas, even your struggles.
Yes.
So keep it real. It's the reality homeschool moment. Don't show us all your best stuff.
Exactly. So thanks so much for joining us this week. We love to hear from you. In addition to your videos, send your questions and your feedback to thehomeschoolshow@nche.com. And please help others find this by sharing and rating and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. And if you think this show will be helpful to your family or your friends, please let them know about it. And to learn how to subscribe to our show as a podcast and on YouTube, you can visit nche.com/The Homeschool Show.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, this is great.
And thanks for joining us today. Until next week, continue to homeschool with confidence and joy.